Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first tips and tricks of 2023. We're excited to finally be back. I was looking at the calendar, and it looks like we haven't had one since last October due to the holidays. So it is good to be back and presenting to you all about some of the deeper things of audience. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda. But first and foremost, my name is Tim Sessions, Director of Client Services. And with me, I have Ryan Garcia, who is already in the chat. Ryan, you'll want to throw that chat to everybody so that they can enter the contest here. As most of you know, we do a giveaway at the end of this this webinar for a chance to win $100 to Amazon. And there you go. The link is in the chat. So while we go over this quick agenda, feel free to enter the contest. You'll also have some time at the end as well. Just gives you an idea of how our contests work, as well as see how the attendance is as well. Also, at the end of this, you'll receive a pop-up if you're viewing in the browser or in the app to rate this webinar. We do take that feedback to heart, and as we receive it, we take a look at the things that we did well, the things that we didn't do so well, and hopefully make changes so each webinar is a little bit better. Today's webinar is on the grid, and if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you will be by the end of this webinar. And so we are going to jump right into it, and then of course at the end we'll have time for questions as well as pick our gift card winner. So the grid, everything you need to know. First of all, what is the grid? You may have heard us refer to it as a campaign grid, a contest aggregate page, the promotions or promo grid, or that website where all my contests show up, whatever it's named. That's what we're talking about today. So let's just jump right into what we're referring to here. When we talk about the audience campaign grid or the grid, this is what it looks like. I'm on our example.media page /contest. Currently, every contest that we have live or appearing on our grid is available on this page. So if this was a real website with real contests, me as a user who wants to win all sorts of prizes would navigate to the contest tab here and click on any one of these campaigns for it to open up for a chance for me to enter. For instance, I just clicked on a gallery campaign, and it looks like the summer fun gallery going on here. I can enter it and then go back to the grid and enter other contests under it as well. Well, your promo grid or your contest aggregate page, and just to save time from here on out, I'm just going to try to call it the grid. They might look different on different websites, and I actually pulled up a couple of examples for you all to take a look at. Maybe this is what yours looks like, or maybe you need some ideas of what your contest page can look like here. So let's take a look at Quick 100.5. They have their grid or their contest aggregate page listed in a list view. We take a look at Z100 in New York. They have their grid page more of the word I'm looking for just escaped me, but more of a horizontal or landscape style. That's the word I was looking for, horizontal or landscape style. So they customize their grid to fit their needs and give it their own style and look. Now, we're going to get into that at the end of this call on how this takes place. It is a little bit of an advanced feature, but if you're utilizing the audience grid, it's going to be in the square format with the grid image prominent. So this will be your thumbnail image and the title of the contest down below. So it kind of has that Polaroid look to it. We've added the contest type so you know what you're clicking into. That is something that we manually added on our grid, so you don't need to worry about it showing unnecessary details. Let's talk about where to find it in the admin. If we have some veterans here, then you're probably already aware of where to find it, but if not, it is a little bit hidden or kind of out of the way, I should say. And I navigate to it by clicking on the Campaigns tab in the upper left-hand corner and turning on View Campaign Grid. So you can see it looks similar to what we were looking at on our contest page on the live side. This is what it looks like on the back end. So what can the grid do? It can do a lot of things. A few of the options that you have access to is the ability to decide when a campaign or contest appears on that grid. So in the grid view, if I click the drop down beneath my thumbnail, I can see several different options. I can feature when upcoming or live, show when upcoming or live, show when upcoming live, or recently completed, show when live or recently expired, show only when live, and hide from grid. Now, by default, show only when live is the option that will appear. You can actually set up some defaults. We might get into that in just a little bit, time depending, but you can determine how you want all your contests to appear on the grid if it is something that you're utilizing. Now, let's take a look at our contest page here on examples.media, and we have this random enter to win. I just entered to win an awesome prize. Doesn't give us much detail. I click into it. It's not even a live promotion, and there's some random graphic on the contest page. So while we investigate who built this contest and why it's appearing here, because it doesn't really fit our style, we can go ahead and make sure that this contest does not show up on our grid. So by doing that, I just did hide from grid, and I'll do a hard refresh real quick, and that contest should no longer appear by changing the settings under the campaign grid. Now, you'll see the status of the contest as well, whether or not it's live or recently completed. But let's talk about some of these options here. Feature when upcoming or live. What that means is if I were to feature this contest when it was upcoming or live, then it's going to show as the contest is pre-scheduled. It'll say, you know, this contest starts on such and such date at such and such time. And then when it's live, obviously the entry form is then enabled. But by featuring it, what this means is it will maintain that first place position even after other campaigns are created. Now, in order for this to work, however, you do have to change the arrange grid option. Right now it's set to custom, meaning I can actually drag and drop contests in any order that I would like. But if I were to set this to start time or end time, what this is going to do is it's going to arrange the grid in the start time of each contest. So stuff that starts later will appear in that first place spot. However, if I wanted to feature a contest and we have set start time, this should bump the contest into that first place position there. So now my teacher of the week feature when upcoming or live is there. As other contests are built behind this one, then this feature or teacher of the week featured contest, that was a tongue twister, will stay in that first place position. So let's see what that looks like on our live site as well. It should reflect. There we go. You can actually feature multiple contests, but keep in mind, because we're at the start time here, then the contests that are featured will also respect the start time as well. So think of it as its own section of featured contests respecting that start time arranged grid status. Now, if I leave it at custom and I drag and drop the order here, as new contests are created, then it will actually, so let's say this Best of Ogden is in that first place position, then that would get bumped to the second place position, even if I had a feature when upcoming or live selected. So keep that in mind. If you want to feature stuff on your grid, then it has to be start time or end time selected there in order for that to be recognized. So another thing that I wanted to point out about the contest grid, what happens if you only have one contest? Well, if you only have one contest on the page, it will default to a full page view until another contest comes in and turns it into your grid style here. So a couple of different use cases for the campaign grid, or the grid as we're calling it in this call here. One is, we get this question fairly often. We'll have people ask, how do I set up a sweepstakes, say in rounds, where maybe they want people to enter the same type of contest. They don't want to have to recreate it or embed it multiple times and redirect people to different contests on their website. You could utilize the grid feature to actually create your contest. So let's go back to the campaigns view here. You could clone the contest several times, make the changes on each of the individual contests that you want to appear on the grid at their respective schedules. And then you could use the feature. So you actually have access to your grid settings in this view as well. And you could use the feature show only when live for it to only appear when it's live. So, as a returning person who is familiar with this round style of sweepstakes, they could just come to your website.com/contest page and enter the contest that's live at any given time. Now, of course, if you have multiple contests appearing on the grid, then they would all show up on the grid as well. But if this is something that you wanted to exclusively use the grid for, showing this same contest with different schedules several times, you could utilize it to run a rounds type campaign. So for instance, if we had our contest set up like this on a page and we wanted to create an exclusive round style contest, then we could actually utilize the promo grid for that. Make sure none of these contests that are live on our site are appearing on the grid because they're showing up somewhere else, and then just utilize the grid to do those rounds. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out. We could go into a little bit more detail via individual support there. The nice thing about the grid is it is a set it and forget it concept. As your contests run, as they go live, depending on your grid settings, these contests will appear and be pulled down as the contests start and end. Let's talk a little bit about the app defaults real quick. If there are app defaults that you want to create in respect to your grid, I can jump into my account manager and we can go into details, access, and we can edit our defaults. And at the very top of our default, we can make it so any sweepstakes that we create could be only show on live, show an upcoming live feature, or do not show on grid at all. So we can set that as a default. So every new contest I create moving forward will not show on grid unless I were to swap it back to show on grid per individual contest. So we'll have that as show and live. So that's the default piece that I did want to jump into. Looks like we have plenty of time to do so. Something that I forgot to mention at the top of the call is if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask those. We have Ryan and Jay standing by to answer any questions in the Q&A section. Okay, so we discussed the app defaults. How do we get the grid on our page? If you click on grid settings, then it pulls up the promotion grid settings. Something that we've added for those of you who need to be FCC compliant, we understand that rules need to stay up on websites after a certain amount of time. I believe it's 30 days. So by default, if you set your contest to show when live or recently expired, I did that on our Ogden giveaway here, then the recently expired time frame will be 30 days. So what this means is the contest will still appear on the page. There won't be an entry form allowing people to enter, but they will have access to the terms and conditions footer terms down here at the bottom. So if I still wanted to view these rules after this contest had ended, I could click there and still view those rules. So that's a way that you can be compliant with various rules that we're subject to follow with this recently expired time frame. By default, that is going to be 30 days. And this is probably an area where if you're going to utilize our promo grid or our grid 100%, then maybe you would want to set the app defaults to always be show when live or recently expired. So that's a little tip for you there. So under advanced settings, actually let's jump to embed promotion grid on a website. With the promo grid on the website, we have our typical embed form here. So this is going to embed the entire grid on your site. We also have the SDK code included. We're going to get into that. It's a little bit of an advanced feature there. And if you have a WordPress site and are having troubles embedding it on your WordPress site, don't hesitate to reach out and we can work with you on getting the proper code for your grid for your WordPress site as well. Hopefully that embed URL or that embed code tag will be included here shortly. But to get this on your site, you can put the header JavaScript in your header of your site and then embed the contest itself or the grid itself on your /contest page, similar to what we have here. So it would populate similar to this. Once your grid has been placed, then you'll actually want to come back here to advanced settings. And again, just a little recap here under grid settings, you can go to advanced settings and you'll place your embed page URL. This matches the URL on our example site. You'll place it in the embed page URL field in the promo grid settings section. And what this is going to do is anytime you create a campaign, so we'll go ahead and create a sweepstakes and we'll start the campaign. Anytime you create it, rather than having to place the embed on a web page URL in the individual contest itself, then using the smart link, when somebody clicks over to it, it's actually going to take them to the examples.media page, search for the contest on that page with the matching promotion ID and display it on the page there. So it's a nice, it's another set it and forget it feature using our smart link where you don't have to worry about adding the individual contest URLs to your embed page options. You can take care of all of that utilizing the campaign grid if this isn't something that you want to implement on your sites here. Again, that's under grid setting, advanced settings, and this will redirect any U-link or our smart link that we've created to send to the campaign grid site there. So very easy to do. All right, in a couple more minutes, I did want to talk about some advanced features. Now, these are only features if you're familiar with CSS and APIs and SDKs and stuff that can even go over my head a little bit here. You do have access under advanced settings to create some custom CSS. And what that is for non-coders, it stands for cascading style sheet. So if you have somebody on your team that understands CSS, you can actually input some CSS into the custom CSS section here under advanced settings and create some of your own styles and looks to the promo grid. Now, what we're looking at here, it goes beyond CSS in both of these instances here. We'll talk a little bit about the API as well. But if you want to customize, the text and maybe some of the ways that this lays out on your page using this CSS, you can do that using the custom CSS feature. And another advanced feature is the Audience API and SDK. This is how Z100 was able to create their own campaign grid or contest aggregate page. Basically, they've built their own front-facing site. They've tied into our SDK, and anytime a contest is created, it populates their certain way on their site here. So if that goes over your head, that's okay. However, if it's something that you do want to explore, you can use our advanced usage code here to install that on your site. And then we also have a help article that talks about our API and SDK. So if you have somebody on your team, that has some development background with some API knowledge, you can, search our audience.io API. It will pull up this article and give you access to our API endpoints. This can be used for hundreds of other things besides, building out your own grid page, but you can find that information at help.audience.io and just search API and it will pop up for you there. All right, hopefully, I saved the hard stuff for the last, so hopefully I didn't lose you. Let's go ahead and see if there's any questions to answer here. I think I covered everything I wanted to about the grid. Of course, if you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to reach out, utilizing our support. We have a couple minutes on this call as well to answer any questions that come in. But if not, let's go ahead and get that link back in the chat there, Ryan, and give people a few seconds left to enter if we had any stragglers there, and go ahead and enter our giveaway. And while we let people enter the giveaway, I just wanted to thank you all for attending the Tips and Tricks. We'll be announcing our winner here in just a second. You must be present to win. But on the screen right now is our audience support. So we have our live chat weekdays, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. That's the chat right within the admin. You can email us anytime at support@audience.io, and then our phone number 801-901-2011. And with that being said, let's go ahead and pick a winner, and if that can get sent to me directly, I will announce it on air. So the way that we do this, if you're new around here, again, you must be present to win. While you're waiting, go ahead and see if you can find that raise hand feature. When we announce your name, it should shoot you to the top, but I can also view the attendee list here. So we have our winner, and our winner is Jim Reuter. Hopefully I said that right. Jim Reuter, if you're here and listening, there we go. We have Jim shooting to the top there. Congratulations, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for joining this call. We will send out that gift card to you, Jim, via the email that you registered with, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks, everyone, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day. We're excited to see what you can do with your grid. And again, don't hesitate to reach out with questions.